What's going on, people? So, let's jump on into these things here. So, picked up some shoes recently, right, from the one of the local shops and whatnot. Feel like I probably could have got some kind of deal if I'd looked around online and stuff. Because this pair of vomero 18s, right? Easy to come by. A lot of people do lots of random sales and stuff, but I kind of feel sometimes like if I'm buying it like locally, I don't mind paying full price because like this is like a very small, just in the area sort of store. So I don't mind supporting them a little bit more. If it's like Foot Locker or something, then that's when I get a little hesitant to pull that trigger. So like I just said, right, Nike Vomero 18. Remember a while ago when I went to that Nike thing and I won those Pegasus 41s, right? You don't remember that, do you? I get it. But it happened, and while I was there, the lady, the Nike rep lady, she was telling me how the Vomero 18 was going to be replacing the Invincible 3. I had the Invincible 3s on. That's kind of why she was telling me about it. And they sounded interesting, right? These 18s did. And so I went to the store the other day to try them on, and I was going to go to their demo run the next day, but the demo run got rained out. So here we are, right? But anyways, I just ended up buying them instead of, well, without being able to test them out, which is fine. It's how I buy most things. But if you get the option to try something out, I mean, why not, right? So, anyways, looking these, why am I looking at these? I looked these over at the store twice because there's the first time I tried them on, and then again today when I went back to go buy them. So either way, like I said, this right here, Nike Zoom X Vomero 18, right? I mean, it says Zoom X on the side. I don't know if that's actually in the name or not. Nope, just says Nike Vomero 18. Down there, right? Nothing too crazy about it. Looks like it's got some nice traction and whatnot. You see down there on the back end and the front end. I don't know what all technology they put into the bottom of this. I'll figure that out later. That's when I actually do the real reviews. Midsole wise, you got a whole lot of this Zoom X stuff going on. From what she said, and I haven't checked this or whatever, but whatever this height is like their highest running shoe right now, right? I don't know where the Pegasus Premium is sitting or whatever, but it doesn't look to be like nearly this thick in the back end. So that's something. We'll see how it feels. Hopefully, it's not like super bouncy or whatever. Again, that's why I would have liked to try these on. But it won't be the first time I bought something and it doesn't work out if it doesn't work out. But even the stuff that I don't like, it still generally has a reason. I just pick and choose what I wear based on run length and run pace. And these will fit in somewhere regardless. Anyways, the upper and all the color choices they went with on this. That's what sold me on this particular one. When I first saw the Vomero 18, I looked through the colors and I'm like, this is the one. And since I happen to have a St. Patrick's Day themed run coming up soon, right, which I guess a lot of people probably do, figured this has green in it, so that's going to work out as well. So I was like, yeah, we're doing that. And as a added bonus or whatever for like going in there and buying shoes that I don't really need for reasons that I'm mostly making up. It did happen to be my birthday today, so I felt like, yeah, I'm definitely buying something out of this store. So here we are. But yeah, otherwise, not a whole lot going on. I assume soon enough. Let's see, these came out like was it last week? I think these came out last week. They should probably in the next like 3 to 4 weeks or so start showing off like new colors and having those available. So then, if the few that are out there aren't exactly for you, you'll be able to find something that is more your style and go with it, right? So I'm putting these back on real quick just to remind myself how they felt. I mean, I went true to size on them because that's the thing that made sense, right? I walked around in the store a little bit, felt them and all that good stuff. Had my running socks on earlier, normal socks on now. Things are still feeling pretty good. A lot of people say that Nikes are kind of a slim build, and I get that. This is no different than that, right? So you don't have a whole lot of side to side room. I'm good with it. It's got a nice mesh to it. Feels really comfortable all around. Nice and padded on the tongue here. Didn't really talk about all of that stuff. Just kind of went on into like talking about normal things. But otherwise, the upper here, everything about this, like all around the foot is feeling like really good. So definitely a fan of this, right? Yes, to answer your question. So I'm feeling pretty good about it. Again, like I wasn't able to make the demo run because it was raining and I don't like to run in the rain. So I kind of sat that one out. So I will not be breaking these out until I'll probably break them out Monday, which means I got a fast track review on these, like, because I like to get the review stuff done before I actually wear something. Because obviously after you wear it, it doesn't look so great all the time. So that probably means I'll be recording this one and editing it tomorrow/Sunday. So I can have it. It won't go published or anything. I just need to have everything ready, right? So I guess I don't need to edit it yet because it still gets released in chronological order. But either way, so yeah, these right here, the Vomero 18s, feeling pretty good, looking pretty all right in my personal opinion. I get that's a subjective thing. This is all subjective, right? It's a review based on my opinion. I just share it because some people care to hear it, right? What you do with it is what you do with it. I would hope, right? My hope would be that you'll take this stuff that I'm saying, put it in the back of your head, watch a few more reviews, especially some like where people have actually like worn them or whatever, because those will probably be more helpful. But at the very least, usually you can count on one of my videos to at least give you a decent look at something, you know? And then you can go and make whatever decision you want to based off of whatever other information you've aggregated over the videos you've watched. So, on to box number 2. Well, I say box number 2. This is really box number 1 because shoe number 1 came in a bag, if you were following along and saw that. Anyway, so this... Oh, also the price of the Vomero 18, $150 maybe. That sounds right, but there is a receipt in this bag. I just don't remember what it said. Yeah, $159 is what it came out to. So $150 plus $9 of taxes, state taxes or whatever. So there you go. Now this box here, right? This one. It's a pair of what's the thing? The Flu Game 12, you know? It's crazy how I bought my first pair of these because I have the 2016 pair. I've talked about that, right? Well, let me answer this thing. Do you think the price on the Vomero? Do you think the price of Vomero is good overall? Wait, what? Do you think for the price the Vomero is good overall shoe? I guess my brain was expecting there to be some different words sprinkled in there a little bit, so that's kind of why that didn't come out so cleanly. But anyways, I don't know. I mean, again, like I just got these. Like until you actually wear something, you can't really say if it's truly good value or not, you know? So I don't have an answer for you on that, but I mean, you probably saw that coming if you happen to. I don't know if you're a person who's ever watched anything I've done before. If you're not, that's fine. It doesn't really matter. I don't do great content, so it's not worth like really promoting. But that's kind of my stance on things, is that like the opinion doesn't matter until you've put in the work. So anyways, let's go ahead and talk about these for a second, right? Not doing a full-on review talk because I just don't feel like it's necessary. Some time ago, what was it, 9th grade, right? That's when I first saw a Jordan 12. And I'm not going to say I was like fascinated by it, but I was a little interested, right? It was the first shoe wear that ever caught my attention. And because, you know, they had just come out for that season. And a friend of mine, he had a pair of them. And I just remember seeing him walk through the halls. I'm like, man, those are pretty cool looking, whatever those things are. Right. But to me, it was just a shoe. It was just having to look kind of cool. It just stood out, you know. So then you fast forward. Oh, let's see. So that was 2016, or excuse me, that was 96. So yeah, you fast forward 20 years later to 2016, and that's when I got my first pair, right? Which was almost 10 years ago. And at that time, you know, I remember getting the first pair of the Masters and thinking, oh, wow, this is one of those things from like many moons ago. Now that I know what it is and I've bought a pair, that's cool to have. And these also came out at some point that year. And at the time, this is almost 10 years ago, I probably thought to myself, like, this is a really cool thing to have. You know, it looks kind of cool because everything was so new to me up until between 2006 and 2016, well, excuse me, 2015, mid 2015, I'd only bought Air Maxes, so I didn't really know much about anything else. So midway through 2015, I got like a pair of 5s, I think it was. And then 2016, the 12 started coming back around. So everything was so new and it's kind of exciting that way. And they don't look bad either, you know. I mean, it's simple, but it works, you know. And so I was probably at the time like, wow, that's cool. But now you fast forward a while later, and sure, for one thing, I already technically have these just in a size 9.5, which I'm not a huge fan of because I feel like these fit a little big. That's why I wanted the 9. So there's your sizing piece. But I bought these because of that reason. And now I'm looking at them and I'm thinking, Yeah, they still look fine. I got no complaints about them. I mean, I know there was a lot of hype behind things because it's a Jordan shoe from many moons ago, so that just kind of works that way. I don't know how hard it was to come by these. This came from JD Sports, I think J&D JD. What? Hmm. Now JD Sports, right? I was on like the early access thing, got them that way, But then I won this raffle like locally, and I was like, oh well, if I can just pick these up here in store, which is the other ones from the screenshot like last week, I'm gonna do that, which actually ended up working pretty well. I might send these back. I'm honestly not sure. But the ones that I got in store, apparently you can use flex points when you're checking out, and you can like make things cheaper. So like Lay's like, oh, well, if you do this thing, we can deduct some of your points and like you can save some money. I'm like, oh well, yeah, let's do that. So I think I walked out with those for like 180. You know what I'm saying? Whereas these, I probably spent like 220, maybe 230. I don't know. I don't pay as much attention as I should. But I'm looking at them and like, yeah, they're still looking pretty all right. I'm not gonna overhype them because I'm not one of those guys. It's just I think just at this point, having bought so many things over the last so many years, you just some stuff just kind of loses its luster in some ways. I'm not trying to make it sound like I'm bragging about buying all this cool stuff. It's just like if you get enough things over time, stuff starts to look not as surprising to you anymore. It's not as like mind blowing. It's not as entertaining, right? It's just like, yeah, the shoes came out. Of course I got them, right? Right? Because I felt like I was going to put in some amount of effort. Though I will say this, closing that thing off, right? I didn't think I was going to get them initially because I had a run on the Saturday. So I was like, okay, if it's early enough, I should be able to like get through that, get home, and then like in time to try and get them on sneakers or something. But again, then I had the in-store thing and like this early access thing, so that was all kind of for nothing. But yeah, the flu game 12s, ladies and gentlemen. Let's see what's going on in these comments here real quick, and then I'm going to get on out of here. This is your little warning shot, though. If you have any other comments that you want to leave for me, start typing, because after I have finished getting through these, I'm going to do my little outro thing, tell you some stuff you don't care about, upcoming reviews and videos, and then I'm leaving because it's late. Actually, no, I got to talk about some movies after that. So I take that back. I'm going to hit these comments real quick, though. Let's see. And that one says, why is that so small? That's weird. Okay, I am from Portugal. Maybe my grammar is not good. My bad. Hey, don't worry about it, dude. We're all from somewhere, right? We're all going to sound weird to somebody. Your English is fine, says that person. All right. Do you buy Shaq's shoes? Why would I buy Shaq's shoes? He has his own money. He can buy his own shoes. That's just weird. Those are 9.5. They look huge. They are not, actually. Let's see. FR. Okay. I guess that's for France, maybe. Yeah. JD Sports. Yeah. JD Sports to you, too. What do you think about the New Balance 991 B2? I don't know anything about it, so I don't think anything of it. Well, that was easy. All right. Oh, and then he says, no, Shaq has his own brand. Yeah, I also have my own brand. It's called Sarcasm. Sometimes people don't quite catch it, and that's okay, right? Sometimes I say things and people are just like, man, this guy's like dumb, but they don't always catch that it was like some sort of joke. It happens. Anyways, so what do you think about Reebok? Nothing. I think nothing about them. Like, I'm sure they're fine, right? I just don't pay them any attention. It's no different than Alta or those On Cloud shoes, right? Just a brand that I know exists and I don't think anything about because I've got my hands tied with other stuff already, right? They start making some really good running shoes, maybe then we can talk, because that's kind of where my money goes for the most part. Anyway, so let's talk about what is it? Mickey 17 first, right? Saw that the other day, yesterday actually, right? This is the movie review part. Like if you wanted to, I'll hit whatever questions people have like after I wrap this up. So keep on typing if you want to keep on typing. I'm not ignoring you completely, except for right now when I'm ignoring you completely. Anyway, so Mickey 17, saw that yesterday. I'm not a big sci-fi person, right? For some reason, the whole running around in space thing with aliens, it just has never been for me. But some friends of mine from work, they were kind of excited about it. I got the movie thing, so it's like, well, it's free for me, so I'll mostly go to almost anything if I'm not busy. And I wasn't busy, so I went to go see that. I will say I was kind of thrown off by like the actual plot of the movie. I thought it was going to be more about like this dude like fighting something or like, going out into space and like, having some wars against something with like multiple versions of himself. But no, it was mostly a political sort of thing, making you think about like life and ethical things to some extent. And just, I mean, it was funny, right? It had like a lot of humor sprinkled in there that was actually like pretty good without trying too hard. So I did like that, but I just expected more from the actual story, I guess, like to actually entertain me. And I get it, not everything is made for straight up that. Sometimes people like to make you laugh or whatever, but give you something to think about. Sometimes people more side with like making you laugh. And then on the sidelines, there's like also some kind of underlying story. Like, oh, it does kind of make you think though. So this, I can't say it was a bad movie, right? I think it'll go over well for a lot of people. It's just for me, what I am, which is a person who's not really into like certain things. It was just okay, right? But I'd imagine if you find a person who's like into that genre of things and whatever, and especially like if somebody like saw the trailer and knew exactly what they were getting into, I feel like they would probably have enjoyed the movie more than I did. Didn't hate the 2 hours. It was also 2 hours long, which is kind of long, but it didn't drag by either. So I'll give them a thumbs up for that also, because I've seen a lot of other 2 hour movies that are just like, this is just taking forever, right? I've seen some 1 hour movies also, or 1.5 hours, make it seem like they are like 3 hours. So either way, another 2 hour movie today. Actually, I think it was like the exact same runtime, right? Like about 2:15. I saw Queen of the Ring this evening, whatever. Originally, I was going to see it this afternoon, but my runs earlier in the day just kind of threw off the rest of the day, so I had to move some stuff around. So I'm out there watching Queen of the Ring, right? Because I had Tony Storm in it, a big Tony Storm fan over here. I knew nothing of Mildred Burke, right? This wasn't like when I went to see the Iron Claw movie and I knew about that already. I just wanted to see it in movie form and see what else going on with it. This was just totally new to me. It was very good though, right? Going in there with like no actual background on things sometimes helps. When I saw the George Foreman movie, it's the same thing. I know George Foreman as a boxer, but I don't know about his life. I just know that he was a boxer and then he made a grill, right? That's all I knew of him. So seeing that, the George Foreman movie, was like, oh wow, this is pretty all right. Which I think there might be a video up on the channel somewhere about that, because that was back when I used to post those. So, anyways, I saw the Queen of the Ring. I'm watching it. Things are good. The story was pretty interesting. They tie in a lot of wrestling action or whatever. So if you're a wrestling fan, you'll also see a lot of that actually happening as well. So it's not just like story. It's like there's action in there too. Like, and they did like the right balance, in my opinion. Also, I didn't realize that Jim Cornette was going to be in it. Big Jim Cornette fan too. So there was that. And I think Naomi was in it. And also that woman who used to hang out with Mercedes Monet, as she is now, like the big girl. I think that was her in the movie. So, and probably some other cameos of people that I may just not have noticed. They weren't in there a whole lot. Well, the big girl was, but Tony Storm wasn't. But the main girl, she did a pretty good job. And then at the end, they show you all the people, like the photos of the actual person and like the photo of the person that's dressed up as them. It seemed like they did pretty well. The Gorgeous George, that one seemed a little off, but I also only saw Gorgeous George like later on in his life. So this was like earlier, so that could have just been that whole thing. But all in all, like I was entertained throughout the whole thing, had a really good story to it, and I would suggest it to anybody that's a wrestling fan. So there's going to be that, right? But now, this is the part that I was talking about before, where I'm going to read the comments that are remaining from after the last one that I read. And then I'm going to move on about my night, right? So if you have anything else on your mind, whether it's related to something I've talked about or not, you got a few minutes to kind of knock that out as far as like typing goes and whatever. And I'll get to you in the order in which I see them, which is the order in which StreamYard posts them. So let's see here. I'm going to maximize this thing so I can see what's going on, because apparently it's like super small. What do you think about Reebok? Okay, I did that one already. Not rehashing it. Marvel Platinum Topps X-Men 97 or Marvel Masterpiece 2016 XL. Did you see my Topps 97 video? Because I think, if anything, if you did, you probably want to put that one in the lineup for that question there. So 2016, the XLs, because it's interesting, right? And it's been a little more fun in some ways. It has a little difficulty to it because they have different levels for like the different cards. One through something starts off like you're getting one out of every 3 packs. Then you get on up to like the Wolverine level and it becomes like one out of every 15, right? So as much as that's been bothering me, like not getting a lot of those cards, I like the challenge to it. I do. It's also kind of cool that they're on like a bigger form factor. You know what I'm saying? So I do like that. It's new in a sense to me, right? I don't know if 5x7 cards is really a new thing. And then as far as like the 92s, I mean, they look fine, but it's really just like the same thing over again, right? So it's not anything too new, in my opinion. So yeah, that's why that's why the XLs get the nod on that one. Let's see. Nah, I don't. My bad, long day. I don't remember what that was in reference to, but hey, man, it happens. I also had a long day. Yeah, on is kind of boring. True to that. Oh, okay, the shoes, right? Yeah, I do remember saying something about them. I mean, they look dumb, but maybe they're comfortable. I mean, the 350 looks dumb, right? Like I can't support that visual, but it's at least comfortable. Unfortunately for them, there are a lot of things that are as or more comfortable for a cheaper price with a better look. So that's why I could never really fully endorse the 350 as like, dude, you got to get these, right? On could be the same way. I have no opinion on that, man. I like the Prestige, but I mean, I don't know anything about him to really say how I feel about him. Wait a second. You know what? Christopher Nolan. Let's go back to that because I realize now Christopher Nolan is the guy that made a movie with the guy that was in The Prestige. He is not the guy in The Prestige. Yeah, I only know him for those Batman movies. I don't know what else he did, so I have no real opinion on that man because I would assume he's done more than just those 3 Batman movies. So I'm not going to grade him based on only that because it just doesn't sound fair, right? He could have made a whole bunch of other trash or something. I don't know. So I'm just going to not say anything on there. I know that's not a good answer, right? If you want to take something, you can be like, oh, well, if you like the thing that you know of them, so I guess you like them. Like you can take it that way if you want to, but I would rather like not do that, you know? Let's see. My impression was you weren't impressed with 97. Oh, well, there's that. See? Had I read these just like rapid fire, I don't. I just click on them and then I just read whatever's on the screen. So that's kind of how we're doing this, right? Let's see. In your opinion, what is the best Marvel superhero or most iconic for you? Okay. Tied for first, right? And depending on, I remember talking about this in some of my unboxing videos, probably like the earlier ones. But, you know, because when I'm doing those card unboxings, I'm just talking about random crap sometimes. Speaking of which, one of those should be coming up hopefully tomorrow. I think I edited that already, some Transformer stuff. Anyways, tied for first. Favorite Marvel comic hero, whatever. You got Multiple Man, right? Big fan of Multiple Man. Jamie Madrox, not the guy from Twisted. So him, and also Forge, right? Now, Multiple Man. We'll start with Multiple Man, okay? I just think that that's a really cool power, for one. I remember reading the X Factor 2006. I have the omnibus in here somewhere. I don't remember where it is. Probably under the couch with all those other books on the side. Or whatever, that futon thing. Either way, Multiple Man, right? I read that and it's like a really cool use of his powers. I hadn't only really known of him from like when I was younger and like when I was in like the mid 90s, initially collecting a lot of the cards, like the X-Men Marvel Universe Series 2 was the one I started with, you know, they had the blue borders like that Polaris and Havoc box over there. So I remember like reading the X Factor later and thinking, wow, this Multiple Man guy is like really cool. Like I like knowing more about him and blah, 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 right? So it just seems pretty awesome. Like you can make these duplicates of yourself, send them out in the world to do stuff. And then like when you reabsorb them, you then have like what they learned or whatever. So it sounds like a really good time saver, you know, and I'm a big fan of like streamlining my day, making it efficient, you know, that's also in some ways what I get paid to do, you know. So yeah, it just works for me. Now Forge, on the other hand, though, very practical power as well, right? Without like being too weird about it. So, you know, the whole thing of like he can just kind of do whatever he puts his mind to, he can build stuff and make all these random things happen. I just think that that's like a cool thing to be able to do, which again is part of what goes into keeping the lights on around here. People come to me with things, then I come back to them with solutions, tinker away until like things are good, and then I present it and like, is the crowd pleased? And like, the crowd is pleased. I'm like, all right, cool, I'm going home. So that's kind of where things are for me. Those two right there, Forge and Multiple Man. I can't say who's going to be number 1 or 2. Depends what day you ask me, but I can tell you who's number 3. I'm giving you a top 3, even though you didn't ask for it. Dazzler. I don't know why. I guess because I'm a big music guy and I like flashing colors and bright lights or something, bright colors. So Dazzler is number 3, right? So there's going to be that for you. Also, at some point, I will put this video out about this big sideshow statue I bought of hers not too long ago. Really cool. It's completely unnecessary and is so much bigger than I thought it would be. Not as big as this Carnage head that's on the floor over here. With that, I don't know when I'm going to deal with that. All right, so there you go. Oppenheimer Batman. What are we talking about here? Okay, Interstellar. Oh, you're talking about movies? Like, I haven't seen Interstellar. It doesn't sound like a thing that I wanted to watch from what I recall of it. So I think it was one of those like long space movies or something. Today I saw a tracksuit from On that has almost 400 euros, and with Temu quality shoes. I can't talk about them because I never tried it. I have never even looked at the price of their things. I don't really gauge things on the price so much anymore. I used to. I used to look at the price of something and think like, oh, well, this isn't going to be good, or this, I'm looking for this price range. But honestly, a lot of the recent running shoes that I've been buying, because I've been branching out a lot, if you've been seeing some of the different videos and stuff, I used to think like 140 and under was just going to be kind of garbage. But I've run in some things at that price point that have performed pretty well, right? Those Adidas Supernova Rise ones are 140, and I put those on, like, they felt so cheap and garbagey in hand. When I put them on, same with like the Hyperion, like I was like, from Brooks, it's like, man, the standard Hyperion, right? Not the Elites or Maxes. I was like, man, this is okay, and that's across the board, and even the Nova Blast 5, right? So now, like, I look at all these different brands and I see some stuff that's cheaper, and I still think to myself, like, this could actually be all right, because I bought some stuff that was definitely more expensive and it not performed as well as things that are cheaper. I mean, usually that comes between, like, say, like a Nike Invincible 3 versus like the Asics Kayano 31 or something like that, or the Nimbus 27, which is also in the same price point. So yeah, I won't comment on like the difference of quality there or for the price, and I don't know what 400 euros comes out to anymore, because my days of dealing with European money have ended, right? And even then I was only dealing with like the pound for the most part, so can't really say, but it feels like a lot, it just feels that way. Let's see. Have I seen Invincible? There's a character with similar powers as Multiple Man. That sounds pretty cool. I have not seen Invincible, and it's not because I don't want to, and it's not because I don't have time for it. I have plenty of time as a single man with like no kids and all that good stuff. Like, I got time. But here's the thing, though, right? Like, a while ago, I was sat down to start watching the most recent season of The Boys on Amazon, right? And then I saw that they started slipping in all these ads to their shows, and I'm like, wait, like, I thought this whole thing, like, the reason I paid for Prime was to watch this video service without ads. And like, oh no, we do ads now unless you pay more money. And I'm like, I could pay more money for this, and maybe at some point I will, but right now I'm still kind of coming to terms with accepting that, and I just haven't reached that point yet. So I haven't watched anything on Amazon in a long time because I don't want to sit through their ads. That's probably not the best way to go about it. I get that, but every now and then I find some random thing and I'm just real petty about it, and just being completely honest with you guys, because we're all friends here, right? And you're not going to tell anybody, right? Yeah, sometimes I'm just like so petty, and that's one of those things. I saw that and was like, no, you're not getting my $2 because I think the price difference is only like $2 a month. So what's that going to be like $24 a year? Yeah, I've spent way more than that on like unnecessary boxes of cards and stuff. So it's not like a good argument. It's just one of those things that I'm just not doing it. Ford is like the dream of a construction guy. Yeah, I could see that, I mean, because he can make those things, but I also look at it as just like, say when he made the, I don't know if you saw the community or post section thing I did. The Not the current Wolverine run because that one just started last year, but I think it was like the 2020 run, the one that ended earlier last year. It's like issue 48. It's towards the end of the Sabretooth War storyline, where Wolverine, he's in this adamantium suit that Ford had made for him, right? And the thing was like Sabretooth had like hit him with like the gun that Ford built that would like depower people, right? So he hits him with that. So now his healing factor's gone, and like he's like, I can't fight Sabretooth like this. I got to put on this fancy suit because it's adamantium, and then it'll be okay, right? He's got his little sword, right? One of those Masa Sura or whatever that thing was called. But what they didn't let on was that like while he's wearing that suit, it's also like regenerating his mutant ability, right? Like restarting like those genes in his DNA or however that works, right? So when something happened later on and like he like the suit was like taken off of him and the Sabretooth was going in for the kill, he's like, oh, just so you know, I'm now like fully back to being Wolverine and I'm going to destroy you. And then he cut him up into little pieces, right? Like seriously, cut him up into little pieces. And so that I bring up because it's like, yeah, Ford can build all these big things, but he can also like do some pretty cool little tech stuff once in a while too. So got like the best of both worlds, Dude's got a lot of stuff going on, and I support it. Let's see, do you buy all your comic books and trading cards online, or do you go to local hobby shops? So it's the comic books come often from online, not online, excuse me, from in store because I go every Wednesday to the local comic book store, walk around, see what's new, buy a bunch of stuff that I don't need. Sometimes I'll buy some random issue number ones to like remind me like to read things later on the Marvel Unlimited. That's how I do a lot of my reading. I'll buy random issues of certain things if the cover looks cool. It's like, oh, this random, I don't know, Spider-Man number 69 or something. I'm gonna like pick up this just because I like this cover. So I buy a lot of stuff like that. But online, I will buy my share. Like that's where I've been getting a little deeper into certain things that I like. So the Magic magazine, the Magic book that they did recently, a lot of the incentive covers and stuff that I wanted, you just couldn't find them in stores, right? Because sometimes you just have to get things online. I get it. So a lot of those things, the specialty things, I'll go and I'll find online. And usually that's just me saying like, oh, well, I'm going to buy all the Dazzler #1 issues that I like. I'm going to buy all the Magic issues that I like. I'm going to buy a lot of the Psylocke that I like. Those are where the online purchases come from. And just the random stuff from like Unknown Comics, if it's an exclusive, them and big time collectibles. I'll buy stuff from those guys that's only from them, right? But otherwise, I would say the most of my comic book buying happens in store. The card buying, though, that I would like it to happen in store because I could get it faster. But the card shop around here, like their prices kind of started to get a little weird. I was in there the other day just to see like if prices have kind of leveled out. They had where is it? From the next video that I'll be doing, got some Marvel Masterpiece stuff in the other day, whenever that was. These right here, the Marvel Masterpiece XL hobby boxes, they had for like 300, right? You can buy these online mostly anywhere from 140 to like 150, 150 at the most, it seems like right about now, So I'm like, what are you guys doing? And they had some other stuff. They had the Marvel Spider-Man renditions cards for like, it was like 160 or something. I was like, okay, like that price is actually like not far off of like what everybody else is selling it for. So I'm looking at these things. I'm like, you kind of have to go into this knowing what the online market is like. I'll spend a little bit more in store just to get it right now sometimes. Like I think we've all been there, but within reason, you know? So when they're doing these crazy markups, it's like, dude, like I would like to support you guys because this is kind of a cool store, but I'm not also not gonna just waste money just to like be a good citizen or something, you know? It just isn't my deal. So the card buying lately, outside of like the blasters for I think there's one over here, right? I did find like one last blaster box for the Marvel Masterpiece 92s in a Target the other day. The first one that I actually got from, like, I think you can kind of see it's like a bit damaged. Is the first time I bought any Marvel Masterpiece 92s was at that Target, and I just bought all the ones that they had. And I think that one must have just like fallen somewhere, it was like crushed behind thing. Because like when I went back recently, it was like sitting there just by itself. So I just said, well, I'm just gonna get you. But yeah, so I would like to buy more cards in person. It just isn't a thing that I am able to do because prices are just dumb. Amazon Pro, yeah. See, so it's not just me. Okay, I didn't know if it was just me, just being like mad old man complaining about things that aren't worth complaining about. But I don't know. It's one of those like you have this service for all this time, like it's already like not super cheap, and this is like your own stuff. It's like why are you just trying to squeeze all this money out of everybody? Like that. You don't need to do that. Yeah, Disney does that too with their lower plans. That's why I have Disney Plus Premium, no ads, and 4K quality with HDR. I don't know. So in the same way that I have HBO Max because I use AT&T, like for my phone service, cell phone service that is. I don't have an actual phone because this is 2025. Now my mom, she in the same way has Disney Plus because she has Verizon, right? I think that's what it is. So, well, I don't know if I know it was free for that for a while. I assume it still is because like she still has an active account. Either way, whatever tier of account she has, there are no ads in it. So I don't know if she's still doing the same free thing or if they just like added these new tiers and like they kept the Verizon people on like the good tier. I don't know, but I haven't seen any ads on it, which is good. I will say this though on the 4K thing, right? When the Blu-ray stuff came out, I went deep into the Blu-rays. I have a lot of, well, I don't know, I have like it's probably not a whole lot anymore, but because I don't buy them regularly anymore, but I probably still have like a good 1 to 200 or something like that over there on these shelves that I have to count. But I like when it comes to watching something, I'm big on like the picture, right? Like good sound is cool, but I'd rather have a good picture because like wherever I'm like moving around, like looking at the TV, like the sound can be different, but like I want the picture to stay like pristine. So when it comes to like the 4K thing, like for me, I've just kind of like just overlooked it because I do have a couple 4K discs that I bought, like movies, and can watch them on the PS5, and that's fine. But honestly, like, well, the first one I bought was like the Aqua Teen movie, the most recent one, so that one doesn't count. But and also The Outsiders, I bought that in 4K, and that's like crazy old. But Migration, right? I have that one and the Godzilla -1 Japanese deluxe edition that has like the -1 and the minus color. So I can watch stuff like that and it'll look really good. But when I watch like other 4K things that are streaming, I'm always just looking at it and just like judging it the whole time. Like this isn't a 4K, right? Because to push that much data, like you got to have like some pretty serious bandwidth to work with, right? So I get that it's 4K streaming. It's like a 4K, resolution, the 30 something by the 20 something. Forget what the exact things are because I'm not that much of a nerd in that level anymore. But I just kind of feel like I'm being cheated when I like am streaming 4K things. It's like it looks good, right? They've got good codecs nowadays and stuff, so things can look a little better with like a smaller size, and that's great and everything. But it's still just not quite delivering on what 4K is supposed to deliver on. And I think everybody has mostly accepted that, 'cause, like even like the discs are kind of going away. Like Best Buy and all the other physical retailers are kind of like dialing back on that. Target being one of them. I don't like that Target stopped selling CDs a whole lot, also because I still buy CDs. But yeah, just a little rant for no real reason. $300, that's absurd. hard to shop local with those. Yeah, right. And that's the thing. Like I would like to buy the stuff in the stores if because what was how much is one of these? Uh 160. One these sit around like 150 to 160 as well because it's about the same price as these are just a little bit more expensive, right? Because a little I think these are just a little bit more popular, so I get it. But yeah, and like I saw some of these there, and like they weren't as bad as the XLs price wise, but it was still like a decent enough jump that I was like, it's not worth it to pay the price to get these right now. Now, when I bought the Wolverine hobby box, like those ones, the price was good. The price was the same as online. When I bought the Marvel Platinums, those the price was actually a little cheaper than online because I think we got those for like 180 when like they were going online for like 230. So that was a good deal, right? But now I think they're just kind of I don't know if they're trying to like make more money back, but at this point like you're not going to make any money back. So you're kind of just like losing out altogether. But it is what it is. Like if you don't buy the stuff, maybe they'll just drop in price. And if they don't do that, well, then they'll just stop selling it all together. In which case, it's still the same for me, and that I'm gonna keep buying them from elsewhere, right? I get local, like they probably want them. They're hoping that they can make some of the money back because people will just want the stuff now, a little impulse buying here and there. But I can't imagine anybody just walking into a store like that, seeing something, and thinking like, "Oh, that's kind of cool," and just buying this random hobby box for $300 and not doing some amount of research. Because I would think that even if you want something and it's new to you, you'd at least look it up to see what it looks like. And the first thing you see when you type in like Marvel 92 hobby box, whatever, is going to be people selling it like online. And you say like, "Oh, this price is way cheaper," right? Let's see. I paid more, the premium more for the HDR because it makes the TV look like a mini cinema screen. If you buy a nice TV, good panel. Yeah, like the plasma that I have here in the living room, when I bought this thing, it was one of the nicer ones. I forget when was that. That was the beginning of 2009, back when Panasonic and Pioneer had like the best ones. I think Pioneer had the Curo, and that was like the standard. But the Panasonic, they were kind of like right behind it. It's like, look, if you don't want to spend all that money, like buy one of these because it's going to be solid. And then I had it calibrated by some guy of like all the stuff. Immaculate picture, right? So I'm a huge fan of like a good picture. And that's when I was also buying all these Blu-ray things. I even bought like the best Blu-ray player that everybody was talking up on the market, which at the time was the Panasonic BD35. I don't know why, but that's for some reason it's ingrained in my head now. So I was watching all the stuff on there, watching Planet Earth and Ice Age and all these random movies. I was all in like the high def digest forums because forums were a big thing back then. Everybody's putting up their reviews and their thoughts on like the newest videos and like where it ranks on like visual things. And then sometimes I'd buy stuff just to show it to people and like, hey, check out this picture on this thing. That's why I own Speed Racer. It's a terrible movie, but it looked good. Well, I don't know if it's a terrible movie, but it got terrible reviews like universally, but it got really good reviews as far as like the visual. So there is that. But yeah, I'm a big fan of that too. So I do understand paying more to have like that better picture because I'm right there with you. And in some ways, I'll be honest, like this Panasonic, this plasma, is still going strong. Here it is 16 years later. And I'm thankful for that. I feel like I have gotten my $2,000 worth out of it. But at this point, in some ways, it's not that I want it to go out on me, but if it did, I'd look forward to it in a way for like getting a nice new TV that had all the bells and whistles and the really good picture on there. I mean, 1080p is fine, kind of, sort of, but it'd be nice to have like a solid, crisp 4K, maybe. I mean, 8K, I get that's a thing on paper or whatever, but at least having something more modern. Because if this did, I would definitely spend a decent amount on a good one. And at this point, like TVs aren't even that crazy expensive anymore. Like you spend $2,000 now on a TV, and it's gonna be pretty solid, right? But you can also spend like 400 or 500 and get one that's very respectable as well, right? But again, if I'm gonna spend some money, it's gonna be some good stuff, you know? Because it's like a purchase that's gonna be with you for a while. I may as well just go all in, get this thing. Because again, if the next TV I get also lasts for 15 years or longer, yeah, may as well just buy something good. You're really good at commentary. Not everyone has that talent. I, I appreciate that, but like, and I don't even know where this comes from, right? Because I don't have a job that involves like talking to people or anything. It's just some time ago, I was in this course and like, we had to do, like college type things and like you got to do these like speeches and stuff. And I get up and I'm just like knocking these things out and people are like, wow, like, so do you like speak for work? Is that like a thing or something? Like, no, I don't. I don't speak to really anybody on a regular basis at all. It's just kind of how life goes, right? I do what I do. So it's weird to me when that like this honestly just comes quite naturally. I just sit down here, I talk, and I just talk, right? And people seem to be okay with it, which is good. Let's see. Would you upgrade to an? Oh, honestly, like I would upgrade to, and because I look them up every now and then, but I can't remember all the exact differences because they had like the QLED, the OLED. There was some other stuff coming around. I would have to look at whatever is the thing to have in the moment when I need it, right? Because I would upgrade to whatever makes sense. It's just right now throwing out a perfectly good TV just because it's old doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Also, I don't if you remember, right? Like a 50-inch plasma, I don't know like what you remember or whatever, but a 50-inch plasma is freaking heavy, dude. Like I remember when I got this thing delivered and like I got it on the little stand and stuff, and I'm like, because it wasn't like heavy as far as like just the weight of it, but the dimensions of it, because also like the bezels were larger in 2009 as well, so that made it even more cumbersome to deal with. So I'm like, I'm gonna have to call like one of my friends or whatever to have him come over and like help me get this thing up here, right? So getting rid of this TV would also be a hassle. So when the day comes that I get rid of this thing, it's going to be because it had to happen. So yeah, would I upgrade to that? I would if that was the thing that made sense when it's time to do the upgrade. But whenever that time comes, anything is going to be on the table because if it's a long-term purchase, give it some long-term purchase money. That's kind of my stance on it, right? But yeah, good quality TVs, long and good. Yeah, exactly, right? And I know, and I've seen some things like when I was looking up for the one I have in the bedroom, I was like, look, I just mostly on this thing am watching Adult Swim, American Dad reruns late at night, wrestling, like when I'm like lying in bed. It doesn't need to be anything amazing. It's like a 43 inch, I think. And I bought like just some random brand from Sam's Club that like I saw online did well for itself. It was TCL, which the ones I can't speak for the brand as a whole, but at least for that particular one that I bought, they're like, yeah, a lot of the paneling and internal circuitry is the same as was it like a Vizio at the time? It was the same as something else that was also doing well for itself. But yeah, it's a lot of the same internal, so you're just gonna get the same thing. This one just has like different branding and like Roku built on top of it instead of whatever else. So I'm like, okay, well if the picture is as good, that's kind of like the main thing, and it's only like I think that thing was like $300 or something. Like I've spent that on shoes that I ended up not liking a whole lot, so I'm good with this, right? But again, that one I didn't go like all in on the quality because it just didn't need to happen. You can buy a cheap Xiaomi TV with QLED and HDR 443 for like 300. TVs today are good at any budget if you take the time to see some. Yeah, and that's the thing that honestly, that's the thing that blew me away when I realized later that it was really like the box I was using that was kind of like going out, not so much the TV. Because I had an old 42-inch LCD that was from JVC, not great. It was something I bought years ago just because I needed something, and I was like, okay, this is checking enough of the boxes. We'll just get it. It only needs to be good for a year anyway. But I just still have it because I was like, well, I'll just hold on to it. But then it started being weird because like it's really just the box that I was watching. So that's when I upgraded to the TCL. And when I went to Sam's Club, I was just to price check TVs because I'm like, okay, now I got to figure out like budgeting like $1,000 into like that I didn't plan to spend. So I got to set some money aside and maybe like next month, I don't know. But I saw the prices of things. I'm like, wait, like these things are like 200, and I'm like looking up reviews and like everybody is saying that these are actually like good. Like it just kind of like blew my mind, seeing like, and a lot of years have passed, but seeing that I was in the past I spent $2,000, now I can spend 200 and get something just as good. Like it's just kind of crazy to me. But yeah, I do like that your money goes farther now, or further, I should say, grammatically correct things. Let's see. I prefer watching your shoe reviews instead of the big YouTubers. You talk about everything without trying to sell the hype, just an honest review every time. Because my thing about that is like, I I get that like, if I sit here and I tell people like this is amazing, man, vomero 18, you got to go out and buy it, best shoe I've worn all year, right? Like yeah, like you go out and you buy it and you don't like it, you're thinking like, man, like I don't see at all what this guy was saying about these things. Like that makes them so great, right? And sure, like I'll never hear from you again. And like even if you do say something, I can just like whatever, dude. It doesn't matter to me. But to me, like the one thing you have is like your word, right? Like so I'm gonna be honest with you about how I feel about some things. And some people they don't always like it, and I get that. Like I got some negativity in my was it the was it the Galaxy video or something else? It might have been there's a Jordan something. I don't know. It's often in the Jordan ones for sure too, because like I'll sit here and I'll pull up this thing and like because I'm not telling you that it's amazing and you need to have it because it's a OG colorway and Jordan scored like 1,000,000 points in this game. Like none of that stuff matters to me. Does it look good? Does it feel good? Those are the things, right? So I don't care about like selling you on anything. I'm just going to try my best to tell you how I feel about it and give you some things to think about along the way, right? So like say the Nova Blast 5, right? Well, I haven't really worn the 5 as much, but like the threes and I did, but so I can sit here and honestly say, yes, I don't prefer it over a lot of things, but I can't talk down on it either because it works well, right? And the thing that I do like, if you saw my the Lux video where I had all three, I think I was saying that like I prefer the Kayano a lot, but it's not going to be for everybody because it doesn't have that comfort that everybody's looking for, right? So yeah, I try to be as honest as I can because some people, and they've said it before, like, hey man, like I bought this thing after watching your video. It's like, okay, well, I I appreciate that, like, but it's puts a certain amount of pressure out there to where you're like, okay, let me make sure I'm like being like honest about this stuff because once you start not doing that, then you kind of start coming off a certain way. So yeah, and also I do feel like the big YouTube people, like I don't always trust them, just to be completely honest. Because for one, and somebody said this a while ago, like, oh, like you should try to get like sponsored by this brand or that brand. It's like, look, I like a lot of these brands, but I also feel like people would see these videos that I put up in the same way that I see videos that other people put up. So if I got sponsored by like ASICs or whatever, and I bring up the Metaspeed Edge, and I'm like, yeah, these are great, man. I wasn't sure about it, but I ran in them and like they're really good. I feel like people would look at it and think like, well, you're also an ASICs guy though. It's the same way when I go to like these demo runs. It's like the Adidas guy was telling me this thing about the Evo SL. It's like you're making it sound really good, and like the things you're saying sound like they're factual based things, but at the same time, I still don't know if I can believe it. So you try for yourself and you make your own opinion and all that, sure. But yeah, that's why I like just kind of sitting on the sidelines. The channel isn't as big as a lot of the people who go in there with all the hype and the extra production value and stuff, but I can at least sit here and say that I am being honest with you and being realistic about the things and hopefully giving you something of some kind of value. Like if you watch one of these 12-minute videos, hopefully you leave with maybe there's something funny said along the way, or some little insight about like dealing with customer service, right? Or just a better look at a shoe, because I know a lot of people don't do the on feet things, because people buy stuff and like man, I don't even know if I'm gonna wear these. I'm like, oh, I'm wearing them at least the one time for this video, and then out and out to work at some point. But you'll at least see that, right? Because I feel like that's important. I admire you hesitating to throw out working tech. Some people upgrade everything every year for the newest model. Yeah, I can't do that. Even with like the phone stuff, like I got to some extent I got some of that stuff out of my system years ago, because being a bit on the nerdy side, right? Like again, it's a thing that I've been into for a long time. So there was a time between 2001 to 2000, I want to say like eight, maybe. Like I was like deep into like computer tech, right? Like hardware and stuff, you know? So I was often like upgrading RAM, like buying new motherboards. Like when new stuff would come out, I'm looking up like, oh, well, the timings on the Corsair Twin X is going to be like way better than on this, right? And it's going to run cooler with like the heat spreader. So I might be able to overclock a little more, because it's also like going to be like this. So I was looking at all this and like buying these processors to match up things. And okay, well, which motherboards are going to like overclock better? I was buying so many things, right? All these video cards and stuff. Like, oh, well, I'm going to get this one because I can do this driver hack and blah, blah, blah. So at some point, I was spending a lot of money on buying stuff, and it's like all kind of for nothing. You know, you get an increase in performance, yes, but it's kind of like on paper at best. You run your little benchmarks and stuff, and you'll see, okay, yeah, now I'm getting like 90, 50, 90, 60, versus like before when I was getting like 89, 40, 89, 30. It's like what does that even mean? Like not a whole lot, right? Does that mean I might get like an extra frame per second when I'm playing this thing? Yeah, it was all kind of for nothing, but it made for fun conversation at work. And you know, that was just like an interest, right? So I don't regret it. Just you think about that later when it's like, okay, do I need this new phone? Like, is there like, and when it came time to upgrade, like this is the Note 10 Ultra, right? Or Note 10 Plus, excuse me. It still works just fine, right? I use this for taking the pictures for the videos. I use the 23 Ultra for the actual videos that I record, right? Because the video started to get a little blurry. So if you look at, was it like late 23, I think, when I made that shift to like using that, that's why like you'll see some things that like they started to look a little blurrier, then they got really crisp. That's where I was like, okay, we're done with this. Some reason it's still good with pictures. So I don't do upgrades as much anymore unless I'm actually going to get something out of it and it's going to make sense, right? And I will say I do kind of wish I had upgraded to the 24 in some ways, just because it was the last S Pen that had like the Bluetooth features in there. So when I set the camera up, and just some random background knowledge for you, when I set the camera up, I set it on my little tripod to do the on feet things, right? So if I'm doing multiple on feets, I don't want to keep bending down to hit stop and record and stuff, because you kind of bump the camera. So I use the pen, because with the pen, it has, where's the button? It has the button on that side. So you just hit that, and that's your record button and your stop button. So I can hold on to that, keep an eye on this for like the timing to make sure I don't run over. And then whenever I hit the 135-ish mark, then I can like hit stop, switch shoes, hit start. It just works, right? It's super convenient in that way. And the 25, now they just have a plain S Pen, which is actually the same pin build without the internal stuff. It's like just an empty circuit board, which is crazy to me in a way, but it makes sense. So it makes it seem like they initially were going to keep the stuff in there and then just didn't. So yeah, little extra info that you didn't ask for, but hey, it is what it is. TCL makes very good panels today. I think they battle with Samsung and LG. Maybe it was LG. I know I said Vizio earlier, but it's one of those brands that at some point they became like something that people actually like started thinking about like in a higher regard, because for a while it was like if you were buying a TV or any sort of electronic thing, it's like you got the Panasonic back in the olden times, Samsung, Sony, right? Those were the recognized names that you knew you were getting something quality from. And then you see these other brands like I'm not getting LG and Vizio, but LG, like I don't know, they started really coming around, especially like I don't remember any of the phones that they made like by hardware name, but they were making some really good stuff like years ago when like Android first started really kind of taking off. You know, Motorola did pretty well for themselves for a while too. I think they had the first Droid on the one on Verizon. But yeah, LG, they've done some good things as well. So I can't knock them in any way. I don't own any of their stuff personally, and it's not because I have anything against them. Again, it's just because I just haven't had a reason to buy any of their stuff. Though whenever I look at certain things, like I see them in the conversation, and that's pretty cool. Opinion on the current state of the MCU. So, what's the last? It's it might be rebounding, right? So much like a lot of people, that first many years from Iron Man or Hulk was first. Iron Man was first, right? Whatever, in 2008, right? Up until when was it? 2019 was Endgame, right? So, oh, I think a movie or two after that was still kind of involved in that, but that range was solid. Like they were just firing on all cylinders, you know. They were making movies that were featuring people that I didn't care as much about and were still like super entertaining. So then the next wave happens with like the Eternals. Well, the Eternals moving forward, right? I keep forgetting this backwards. And I'm watching this thing like, okay, time to get into this and see how this goes. Last time they did it, now that they know what they're doing, it's got to be even better, right? And then it was just booty, and I was like, well, this is not what I was expecting you guys to do, right? And so that went on for a while, right? And I'm not gonna say every movie was just bad, but it was just like I was watching them. I mean, Shang-Chi was fine and all, but at the same time, I'm watching these things. I'm like not seeing any sort of tie and like, where is any of this going? It all looks like it's just things happening in the same universe, just completely individually. But then more recently, you know, I mean, the I was cool with like the most recent Doctor Strange movie, right? I thought, okay, this could go somewhere. And then the Spider-Man movie that happened not long later, the one that had Doctor Strange in it, I can't remember what that one was called. I'm okay, this could be like going somewhere, right? And I don't know if they will or whatever, but then the Marvel, excuse me, not the Marvels, the Captain America movie came around, and I saw that. I'm okay, this looks like they might be getting their footing back, right? And the Thunderbolts is coming. That looks like that should be entertaining. I'm not sure how I feel about the Fantastic Four one because it just visually looks kind of foolish to me, but maybe it'll be fine. Like once it comes around, I've only seen 30 seconds of it, right? So I don't know. I'm not going to call it off of that, kind of like that whole Christopher Nolan thing earlier. So right now, I feel like it might be getting back to being good again. Will it ever be as good as it was back in the first wave of things? I have some serious doubts because there wasn't much of a bar then, right? So they kept upping it themselves, but now that bar is kind of high. So I don't think that they'll ever really like reach those levels again. But if they can at least make things that I can walk into a theater with some sort of excitement to see and leave feeling like this was a good use of my time, that's kind of all I'm really looking for. And I don't think that's too much to ask, right? I mean, I would imagine anybody going to see any movie, that's what you're looking for. I mean, it seemed like it was too much to ask for like the last couple of years, to be completely honest, because they made a lot of trash. And we're just, and obviously the Sony stuff doesn't count because that's not like this true MCU things. But I think that what they're doing now should get things back to being a little more entertaining and also dialing back on like the amount of movies they're pumping out might give them a little bit more quality over quantity sort of thing. So I got some uh, I got some optimism, right? So I'm just hoping that I don't end up looking like a fool later. Let's see. Have I always been into running? Has it always been enjoyable, or did you work up to it being enjoyable? I still hate it often, right? I'm better at it, so that makes it not so bad, but it's just like this morning, right? What was it? I did 3 runs because that was just the thing that made sense to me, right? I did 3.7 because it's March 7th, 4.3 because 43 as of today. And then I did an even 2 to round that off to an even 10, right? And going into it, I was just like, I could just be at home doing none of this and just okay with that, right? But I'm out here, I'm doing it because it does benefit you in some sort of ways as far as like normal exercise and just getting out to say you should get like 15 minutes of sunlight a day or some number like that, So I'm like, I'm doing that. I feel like if I grow to be like even older, then I would like my body to be in some kind of good shape. So I think about those things. But when it comes to just like the thought of running itself, like, I do not want to do this. It makes sense, so I do it. It's like eating broccoli or something. I don't want to do it, but I'll mix it in with something that makes it enjoyable, right? Put it with some salmon and some rice, and then it's fine. The running, it's like, well, I'm going to put on a good soundtrack for the next however long, go find a place that looks pretty decent, and just going to zone out and just do this. Now, have I always been into it? Going back to that piece, the first piece that you asked. No, right? And I'm still kind of not. But last year, and I told this story to some extent, like in some kind of way recently, I feel like anyway. In August of last year, I signed up to do like a 5K out in the city, right? Because my brother had done a couple over the summer, and I thought, I'm going to do one of those. He lives out in Colorado, and he'd send a picture of him running through some mountainous type terrain because they had one that's like some trail mountain thing. So that seems like that could be kind of a cool thing to do. I mean, I feel like I'm in decent shape. I can run 3 miles, right? Maybe. I don't know. Let's find out. Right. So I go and I sign up for one. And oh man, it was just so bad. Just awful. I didn't really think much of it going into it, but because I've been running on like a treadmill and indoor track and stuff, just kind of like see like how I was doing, like, okay, yeah, this is fine. I should be able to. I've run 2.5 miles, right? A little bit longer to do the 3. Yeah, sure, whatever. Like, yeah, it's one of those things where like if you haven't done something exactly, but you've done something close enough, like, yeah, surely I got this. No, you get out there when there's like wind and there's like, was it like, I think it was like 80 degrees with like 95, 90% humidity. And so you got all the heat just everywhere as soon as you walk outside. And then the wind is against you, and the wind feels like it's just a fan in front of an oven. I'm just running and thinking to myself, this was not a good idea. I should have been at home. But I kept doing it. I go out with the different running groups, and I've done a lot of like different runs. And nowadays, like, I just did 3 miles this morning at like 7-ish pace, right? Something like that. It ended up being like a 21:50 3K, 5K, excuse me. So something like that. So now, I'm better at it, but yeah, it's still not always enjoyable. I like going out with the friends of mine, just seeing the different areas of the cities and stuff. But I just can't look forward to it. Like, I just can't. It's just, let me just go out here, get this thing done. Maybe I can get a better time to make this like worth my time having gone out here, I just did my first half marathon on Sunday. So that went all right. I think I got, what was it, an hour and 40 something, 48 maybe? I don't know, something like that. Forget exactly what, but did that and things felt good. Did the 5K before that, and I have another half coming up this weekend, which is part of the reason I bought these, because I needed something. Well, I wanted some green-ish shoes for this 5K, or for this, was it? It's an 8K? It's an 8K and a half marathon, yeah. I wanted some greenish shoes, and I remember that like the Vomero 18 had a green colorway that I wanted, so that's honestly like the reason I bought these, is for this coming weekend. Let's see, do you break in every shoe? Couldn't shoes feel different after a while? No, I don't break in every shoe. It is just impossible, right? Because here's the thing. So going to work, right? I'll wear whatever shoe that day, sure. And that's where things definitely don't get broken in like at all. Certain things like you only need a day for it to really break in, like a foam posit, right? I talk about them molding to your foot. All you need is like a couple hours in it and you're good, right? Maybe not even that, I don't know. But a day is okay, right? But to truly know how you feel about certain things, like when I talk about, say, what was it? It's like the Yeezy 700s, right? Talk about how the materials of those are a little different, so it's not a full knit, so I don't know how they'll break in over time. Not at all if you only wear them one day every year and a half to 2 years, you know? Because the thing is, I try to keep the rotation going as much as I possibly can, but given that I only wear one pair of shoes a day, in the past, like if I went out for one thing, like say I'd go wherever and I wear something in the morning. If I go somewhere else later, I'll wear something else then. But now it's like I mostly just go to work, then go to the gym. So I just wear whatever throughout both of those things. The only things that really get broken in now, and even then it's still a little sketchy, is the running shoes because I can wear those often. So say the Adios Pro 4, I've been working with those for this week, right? So I wore them last Monday, right? Yeah, I wore them last Monday. That was the first day. Then I wore them last Saturday for a 5K, another 5K, and then on Sunday for the half. And I wore them on this past Monday for what was that, like 3 miles, I think? Four? I don't remember exactly. And then I wore them today for the 10 miles that I did, right? So those, I've got those pretty well broken in, right? I know what I think of those. The Magic Speeds, same thing. That was the shoe that I worked with before that, you know, and before that might have been is that the Kensei Max, maybe? No, the Nimbus 27 was before that. And the Super Blast 2, no, the what was the thing? The Glide Ride Max was before that. Super Blast 2 was before that, right? The Kensei Max was before that. I feel like I got that order right, working backwards. So I'll spend, like, when it comes to the running shoes, I'll spend some time in them trying to get as many runs in as I can. It wasn't super easy recently because there's a lot of snow and stuff, and I'm like, I'm not running through that, right? So I'll break those in more. It takes a little longer because you got to focus a little more and like go out in them. But at least within like the span of 2 weeks, I can usually get a pretty good gauge on those. But then there's some things that I just wear and I just don't wear often. The Nimbus 27, I only wore those. I think I wore those twice, right? And I feel like, and I honestly don't even remember how that worked out. I was cool with it. It was a thing that I felt like will probably get a little bit better, you know. But I need to probably go back and revisit those. So, yeah, to answer your question, no, I don't break in every shoe, and they should feel more comfortable over time. But the daily wear, the what do you call it, the lifestyle type shoes, those, not, it just doesn't happen. Except for, I will say, it was the Asics shoe, the Asics Gel Kinetic Fluent. Those I really liked on day one. And so those were promoted to being like a by the door shoe. Because I'm like, okay, you know what? I wear a lot of Asics clothes often. So I'll keep a pair of Asics shoes by the door that I can just throw on whenever I'm going out for errands. Same with I have a pair of like various Adidas shoes and now a pair of Air Max DNs, right? So if I'm wearing like Nike stuff. So those also get a pass, but for the most part, no, it just unfortunately doesn't happen. Have the same problem with tech, more in the sound area and vision. I could see that. I tend to try to get the best just to say I have it, I guess. I mean, but to me, like, it is one thing to have like the bragging rights, sure. But if you're buying some high quality equipment, like I'm a Sonos guy, right? Yeah, it's pricey, but like it's also like really cool. So there's that, but it's really convenient for listening to stuff. Like I can sit here and play whatever it is I'm listening to. Today was a Chiodos day for the most part. I can sit here and play that at a normal volume as I move from like room to room through this apartment, and just I can hear everything just playing without having to like turn it up way over here just to like make sure it plays over here, like set the speaker to make sure the sound gets everywhere. So I can definitely see like paying some money to make sure that your experience is good. Also, if that's your only thing that you're really digging into, right? If like you're just focused on like, oh, I just want to have like good sound and vision on like for my TV setup, cool, right? if you're not also spending money on like upgrading your cars and like doing whatever, like lighting in your garage or something, like then you only have the one outlet thing. That also helps. I mean, for me, financially speaking, whatever, I well, the last couple months, like this, I feel like the car thing definitely like took over as far as like most of the money. But for me, like outside like concert tickets, like this has gotten a lot easier, like the shoe reviews and stuff, because I'm not buying as many of this, right? So you can often get a deal on a running shoe. That's not a big deal. So, and they're like easy to come by. So I've been saving some money there. So I get like, what you're saying, having the problem like buying all the new stuff. But if the new stuff you're buying is all locked into one little ecosystem in some sort of way, in my opinion, it's not so bad. But that's just me, right? But I'm also a person that's also buying things more often than they probably need. LG made some good and crazy phones. I think LG makes quality products, but don't put the time in on them. Because my thing is, what kind of sucks with on the phone side, outside of like an Apple phone and a straight up vanilla Android phone, is like the updates, right? Because then you got to rely on Samsung, which in this case, like I get updates on this more regularly because this is like the unlocked like international type version or whatever. I think this one also was. Yeah, this wasn't the AT&T one either. So Samsung can at least put stuff out there faster without having to go through AT&T. So there's that. But it's still not going to be as fast as if it was just like a straight up Google thing. And sometimes having those updates leads to like better phone quality, like as far as like the user experience, and you get those new bells and whistles worked in. You still got to hope that the hardware is there, right? And I don't know how things have been on that front, but I don't think I've seen a whole lot of complaints about like the Pixel stuff. But yeah, I mean, I could be wrong because I haven't really paid a whole lot of attention to it. But yeah, LG, I remember hearing some good things about them, but I don't remember how things have like gone over time. 'Cause sometimes people like they kind of trend upward. They're like they're getting better, they're getting better. They're at that point where everybody likes what they're doing, but then like they drop because they get complacent. Like they just kind of stop paying attention to like keeping up and maintaining that number one spot. They're just like, oh, we're good, we're number one, guys. Lock it in. No need to innovate anymore, which is not the approach to take. So I don't know. I might have to go back and look at some of the LG things, right? Or marketing. Yeah, marketing also matters too, because I've seen some stuff where like I feel like it could have done better if they had just marketed it more, right? So it was forever ago. Maybe you remember the Palm OS, well, excuse me, Web OS that was on like the Palm Pixie and the Palm. What was that other one? The I keep wanting to say Trio, but the Trio was a totally different thing. It was like HP maybe that made the Trio. What was the other? Either way, Palm had they had the Pixie and the Pre, right? And they had some other tablet as well. But the Palm Web OS of like what was that? 2012-ish, something like that. Well, 2010 maybe, 2010, 2012, somewhere in those years. That thing was like crazy, right? It's like an open source phone OS. So if you were good with going into different files and just like making edits and stuff, you could do whatever you wanted on there. Unfortunately, like I don't think it was marketed very well, but it definitely had like a bit of a cult following, and that people that like to tinker with things would get it and say, well, dude, you can do whatever you want to in this. Like, you don't like how the display is, like just go in there, find the display settings, and just kind of tweak them a little bit. I could go in there and say like there's something you could do and some commands you could add in, or not commands, but like some code you could add into certain things and say like, okay, if somebody calls me and it's a phone number I don't know because it's not saved, use this ringtone. If it's this, do this thing. Like you could do so many things with it. And I feel like that would have been a cool thing. But if they had marketed that and leveraged like better phones also, because the phones weren't very powerful. It was what it was. But I feel like had they just played their hand a little bit differently, I feel like they could have done pretty well for themselves. I mean, and also there wasn't a whole lot of like third party buy-in, I don't think. But sometimes if you make people want to use your thing, then more people will start making stuff for that thing, and then everything will work out all right. You just got to give them a reason to care, right? Then they'll sing along forever. That's what the Bouncing Souls said. Let's see. Yeah, it is. It is. It's got a couple more. Wait, what time is it? Yeah, I got for another 46 minutes. It'll be my birthday. Well, actually, I guess that'd be like an hour and 46 minutes because I was born in Iowa time and they're an hour behind us. So there's that. But yeah, that is a thing that happened today, and it'll hopefully happen again next year. That's the plan, anyways. So we'll see, right? But I guess that brings us to the end of everything. So that being that, does anybody else have anything left for me in this little impromptu Q&A of sorts that I've done here? In the meantime, I'll tell you what's coming up on the show. So let's see. I got my Kickstarter stuff in for the Transformers thing. So I did that video that was like 2 weeks ago. I just didn't upload it yet because I was waiting on getting that Brooks stuff squared away. So that'll probably be the next thing that goes up. Something else. Oh, I have an Alex Ross collector's box that I have all the stuff together. I just need to take a few minutes to edit that. That'll take like no time at all. So those will probably go up. Those will probably be over the weekend. And then these things will happen because I'm curious to see what's in here. These should be the last hobby boxes I buy for these sets anyways, because I think I need like, I'm trying to build 2 sets out of these, right? So I need like 3 more cars for my set, and then maybe like 10 to 15 for the second set. So I feel like I should get a lot of those within this. Then I'll just buy the individuals. These, I need a little bit more than that out of these. But at this point, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense to keep spending the money on these. Because I mean, this is like $300 right here, right? I could just finish things off and just buy what I need. So I'm just going to do that. And then we'll see how much more of the X-Men 97 stuff that I buy, because Dave and Adams does have a sale right now. But I'm just not sure if I really care to buy more of them. I wanted to like them more than I did, but I don't know. Maybe it's just like this thing. But it's the first thing I bought from Topps, so it's kind of making me not really care to buy more of their stuff. But again, like the Christopher Nolan thing, I'm going to give them another chance later, because the Upper Deck, not everything that they've made has been great. You know what I mean? So I'm not going to hold this one set against them. We'll see how that whole thing plays out. And then I think there's some DC Hush ones that I wouldn't mind having. But after that, after the Transformers, after the Alex Ross thing, after these Marvel masterpieces, then it should get back to like the shoe things, some pretty rapid fire videos because there's nothing that really needs too much talking. It's all, well, this maybe because it's kind of new, but everything else is pretty much just like it's kind of been done before. It's just like, oh, this is a Gore-Tex version. Oh, this is a Super Blast 2 in a different color, right? So that stuff will be super simple. This same thing, right? I've talked about those before. A lot of 12s, actually. So that's what's coming up, right? Pretty sure that's pretty much everything. Then hopefully I can... Oh, actually, one other thing. Since it is March, I'll be doing my first quarter pickups for the year, which will be a lot more than I expected it to be, because I got on this Brooks bandwagon for a while, which has been working out pretty well, actually, like a lot of the stuff they do. So yeah, that's what's coming around. But anyways, I don't see anything else left in the comments thing and all that good stuff. So from me to you, have a nice rest of your day or rest of your night, wherever you are. After this, got to record a quick little review of sorts about, what was that movie I just saw? Queen of the Ring. Because maybe some of you guys might remember, I used to post my little videos on here of about the movies that I went to go see. But once YouTube changed their like short rulings, now anything under 3 minutes is considered a short, and I don't like shorts. So now I still make those videos. I just post them on Twitter and Instagram stories, and that's kind of where they go to die, right? Because that's kind of how that works. But I do it because it entertains me, it entertains ones and ones of people. So there is that. But all right, so cool. I don't see anything else in there, so I'm going to go ahead and head on out. But to the people who stopped in here, keeping me company over this last hour and 25 minutes, I do appreciate that. All right, gave me something to talk about. Like to sit down and do this whenever I can. I don't normally sit down and do lives without like some sort of initial topic, but just so you know, I'm usually up for talking about whatever when I am sitting down here. I just have an initial thing to get out of the way first, and how things go from that point on is how things go from that point on. And that's where we were today. So I'll catch up with you guys at some point in the future, I assume, and maybe in the past if time machines ever become a thing. Later, people.